right? So this Jabr Juz'i, he says that this is actually not true, and he gives many examples, right? Uh, we learned about the story of the thief who was stealing from the person's garden, and he said that, I'm acting by the will of God, um, and then the person, says, okay, let me teach you a lesson about the will of God, and he ties him up and starts whipping his foot, and he says, well, I'm also my whipping of you is also um, the punishment of God towards you. And then the person confesses and says, okay, I believe in ikhtiyar, right? In free will. And so he gave the simple example that he gives is that, you the same way you don't blame a rock for, you don't command a rock to, do something, or you don't blame it for something. However, you blame a person who is not um, a person who is not loyal to you, or a person who's dishonest with you, the same way you scold them or get angry with them. That in itself is proof that there is, that there is ikhtiyar of some sort. And that to say that this is all based on Jabr is completely counterintuitive. The next level beyond that is Jabr Tayakun, which can be translated to the Jabr of certainty. And so this is like the next stage in the journey, where you come to the realization that yes, there is free will, but all actions are created by Allah, right? So even though the action, for example, the deeds that we perform, that one should know that and it all does happen by the will of God. We also have, God has given us a will, which we act by, and that's why we're accountable for the deeds that we commit. The third stage is Jabr Takhalluq, which is, the next stage in the journey, and that that is the oneness of God's attributes. And so this is where we are today. So last week we were in this transition between this second stage and third stage, and then we're going to cover the fourth stage as well, which he calls Jabr Kulli, or the all encompassing Jabr, where at that point, the Jabr itself, the compulsion, the Jabr, the one who is, you could say forcing, and the Majbur, the one who is being forced, it all becomes one. This is in the domain of unity. After the Salik has achieved that stage of fana fillah, annihilation in Allah. And just wanted to also remind everybody of this hadith Qudsi, um, uh, which has been narrated in many of the authentic hadith canons, including Bukhari, um, where Allah, he says over here, and my servant continues to draw near to me with nawafil uh, deeds until I love him. And when I love him, I am his hearing with which he hears, and his sight with which he sees, and his hand with which he strikes, and his foot with which he walks. Were he to ask something of me, I would surely give it to him. And were he to seek refuge with me, I would surely grant him refuge. Right. And this last stage over here um, is is actually referring to this hadith itself. So, so having said that, now let's hear it from the words of Sheikh Kashifi and Mawlana Rumi
MashaAllah.
himself.
Beautiful. You summarized it very well.
Thank you, brother. So here, he says در بیان آن که سالکان حواله افعال به ذات واحد کنند و این مرتبه توحید افعال است. So here he's saying that he's going to talk about the salik, the traveler, and how they have reached the stage where they recognize that all deeds are in essence, all actions are in essence one action. Unity, they reach the stage of unity of actions, and this is the the tawhid ifal, or oneness of deeds. And so he brings this poetry, this line of poetry, which is actually in Arabic. If there are any Arabic speakers who can let me know if I'm translating it correctly. This is not from Mawlana Rumi. It's from Ibn Farid, who was a poet in the time of the Abbasid dynasty. He says, وَكُلُّ الَّذِي شَاهَدْتُهُ فِعْلٌ وَاحِدٌ بِمُفْرَدِهِ لَكِنْ بِحُجْبٍ إِلَّا كِنَّةٍ. And I think I'm trying to translate this. I think what it's saying is, and all that I saw was what was but one action by itself, but covered with veils. Right?
Yeah, that's right.
So then Sheikh Kashifi here, he says, Azin ziyadat, and furthermore, the next stage, Jabr takhalluqas, right? That the next stage is the Jabr of the creation, which we said is the the oneness of attributes. Babala tarazon, right? And even higher than that, Jabr kullist is the all-encompassing Jabr. چنان کس حضرت صاحب گلشن میفرماید. So Gulshan is another famous Gnostic, Sufi, whom over here, what he says is interesting. Actually, he says, هر آن کس را که مذهب غیر جبر است نبی فرمود آن مانند گبر است. So, yeah, right. So again, yeah, he says whoever has a religion other than Jabr, Nabi Farmud, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, on manande Gabrast. So the Prophet says that he is similar to Gabr. Actually, means the religion of Judaism. So his religion is similar to the religion of Judaism. So now here, Sheikh Kashifi, he does some explaining, since this seems a bit counterintuitive. So he says, "Vasochan ishan agar che bezahir Jabr minamayad." So he says, outwardly, what he's saying seems to advocate for Jabr, amma b'ma'ani nachonan ast. But in when you look at the deep meaning of it, that's not the case. Dar an hal guyande va shanavande yeki va zaban va gush alati bish nist. Chonan ke dar maqam qurb nokte az an gofte mi shavad. So he's saying that although what the line of poetry that we just read seems to be advocating for Jabr, but the meaning of it, the heart of it, is actually not saying that. What it's saying is that, at that stage, the one guyande va shanavande yeki means the one who is talking and the one who is listening are one. Right, and the tongue and the ear are only instruments, right? Chonan ke dar maqam qurb, right? When you reach that level of nearness, and that's why I brought this hadith Qudsi over here, with I am his hearing with which he hears, and his sight with which he sees. In other words, these organs, they become merely instruments. So now let's hear it from the words of Mawlana Rumi himself.
Beautiful.
So he says, Lafz Jabram ishq ra bi sabr kard. آنکه عاشق نیست حبس جبر کرد. این معیت با حق است و جبر نیست. این تجلی مه است و ابر نیست. So لفظ جبرم عشق را بی صبر کرد. So the word compulsion made me uncontrollably patient for love's sake. آنکه عاشق نیست, the one who is not a lover, right? The one who is not an عاشق, حبس جبر کرد, is in the prison of compulsion.
Let's do that again. The first line, لفظ جبرم اشکرا.
لفظ جبرم عشق را بی صبر کرد. آنکه عاشق نیست حبس جبر کرد.
Right.
So the word compulsion has made me uncontrollably impatient.
Okay, ishkra to the passion, not me, and made it impatient.
Okay. So lafz jabram ishq ra bi sab. Yeah, so you
in other words, the passion in me became impatient. Aankhe aashik nahi ab se jabr kar. The second line is fine. In other words, when you get to that level of compassion, then the word jabr really makes me impatient because I can't seem to reconcile with it.
Yeah, you're right. You know, it says ishq ra bi sab kard, so it says means it has made love impatient.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
So interestingly, interesting why Nicholson says made me uncontrollably.
Because he considers himself to be that ish, which is true. Yeah, but he's the poet is addressing the passion within you.
Yeah,
that particular stage, and that makes more sense.
Yeah, what you're saying makes more sense actually.
Yeah.
Jazakallah. این معیت با حق است و جبر نیست. این تجلی مه است و ابر نیست. So he's saying, you know, this state, this is the ma'iyat, being with God, right?
Companionship, yes.
This is the companionship with God. This is not compulsion.
Right.
In tajalli mah ast va ابر نیست. This is the manifestation of the moon. It's not the cloud.
Right.
Right. So really the union of, or the companionship with God is, that's the analogy of that is to the moon. The Jabr that we know of, right? That's those are the clouds that cover the moon.
You see that the word Mayit Bahak is being alongside Haq, alongside Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not in him yet. This is being walking with him.
Right.
So that is the stage that he's talking about right now. You're walking by him, but you still have your own identity.
Right.
So is that what this means, that the Jabr and Ikhtiyar becomes one? So that it becomes.
Yeah, it looks like Jabr, but it's really the way it's supposed to be. It's Ikhtiyar.
Yes.
Because you have earned it now, and you are in that stage.
Right.
Tajalli Ma, this is the actual exposition of the sun. It's shining its glory.
Right.
And it's not a cloud anymore because it's now shining bright.
Right. Var bod in jabr amme nist. Jabr an ammare khud kame nist. So he's saying var bod in jabr. He's saying, and if this is jabr, right? Jabr amme nist. It's not the jabr of the common folk or the ordinary people.
You usually mention jabr. It's not that.
Jabr an ammare khud kame nist. So it's saying compulsion, you know, is not the true compulsion, is not that ammare, you know, that evil commanding, self-serving nafs, right?
Right.
So he's saying the true Jabr is not that.
Right.
Jabr ishan shanasand ey pesar ke khuda bigshadeshan dar dil o basar. Dar dil basar. So it's saying Jabr ishan shanasand e pesar. It means, oh young man, oh son, the one who truly knows what Jabr means is the one whom ke Khuda bigshadeshan dar dil basar, the one whom God has opened up their hearts and has given them a spiritual eye in the heart.
Right.
اختیار و جبر ایشان دیگر است. قطره ها اندر صدف ها گوهر است. So it's saying that the ikhtiyar and the jabr of him, this person, right, is something else.
Yep.
قطره ها اندر صدف ها گوهر است. So the droplets of water when inside the shells, right, the oyster shells, become pearls.
Beautiful.
هست بیرون قطره خرد و هست بیرون قطره خرد و بزرگ در صدف درهای خرد است و سترگ. So this is an analogy that he's giving. He's talking about how Jabr is similar to a droplets that are, you'll find them outside. You'll find big and small droplets outside of the shells, but inside the shells, those same droplets, they make pearls. طبع ناف آهوست آن قوم را از برون خون و در درونشان مشکها. So it's saying طبع ناف آهوست آن قوم را. So those people, and it's talking about the awliya, the ones who have reached this stage, their nature is the nature of the musk deer's gland.
Right.
از برون خون در درونشان مشکها. So from the outside, it's blood, right? So it's like the deer's musk gland, which I don't know a lot about.
It is something very rare, but we have it in India, in Pakistan.
Right. Yeah, I had to do a Wikipedia search to learn more about.
Yeah, that's an animal that maybe it's extinct now, but maybe almost, And the umbilicus, the naaf is the umbilicus. That's where the glands are under there.
Right. Yeah. So it's for those who don't know, it's a gland that and it basically has a very rare perfume.
Yes, it's beautiful perfume from there.
Right. So the outside of it is it's bloody, right? Blood. But inside it is this very valuable and rare perfume.
Yes.
And so he's saying to magu ke nafe birun khun bovad chun rud dar naf mushki chun shavad. Yes, sorry, chun ravad dar naf mushki chun shavad. So he's saying don't say this substance, right, is blood on the outside. How could it become a musky perfume when it goes into the gland? To magu kin mes burun bud muhtaqar dar dil aksir chun gashtast zar. So, and also similarly, don't say that this copper is very ugly and despicable on the outside. How is it so that when placed in an elixir that it becomes zar, which means gold? How does it become gold from this elixir, right? He's like, so it's like saying, the same way that that it's possible that a musk gland, a gland of a deer, right, a musk deer, even though it's blood on the outside, it can be perfume on the inside. Or this copper, which is very dirty on the outside, but when you place it in the elixir, it becomes very shiny and valuable on the inside. The Jabr, Jabr is similar, right? The Jabr of the ordinary people is similar to the blood or the drop of water outside the pearl, or the dirtiness outside copper, right? It's the Jabr the internal Jabr, right? That's the true Jabr, and which is like the pearl inside a shell, or the valuable perfume inside the gland of musk deer. اختیار و جبر در تو بود خیال چون در ایشان رفت شد نور جلال. So the ikhtiyar and jabr that is within you, and it's again you as ordinary person, that is just khiyal, that is just a fantasy, that is imaginary, right? Chun dari shan raft should nur jalal. Once it goes inside him, right? And him, by him, it's talking about the wali, right? The person who has reached that stage of fana, who has gone through the whole journey. When it goes inside him, that's when it becomes nur jalal. That's when it becomes the light of the divine majesty. And so he gives another analogy here. He says, "Non chodar sofrast bashad anjamad dar tan mardom shavad an ruh shad." So he's saying bread, when it's on the spread, right, the tablecloth or the spread, it's lifeless. But dar tan mardom shavad, but when you put that same bread inside people's bodies, it makes their spirit happy, right?
Yes. Does more than that, but
yeah,
he does something that. Okay.
در دل سفره نگردد مستحیل مستحیلش جان کند از سلسبیل. So it's saying in the heart of the tablecloth or the spread, it does not become it does not undergo istihala, right? It doesn't undergo that chemical, that change in nature, right? That doesn't happen when it's on the spread itself. Mustahilash jan konad as salsabil. So it's the spirit is what makes it undergo this change, right? As salsabil. And salsabil is the fountain in the fountain in paradise mentioned in the Quran, right? قوت جان است این ای راست خان تا چه باشد قوت آن جان جان. So it's saying this is the power of the spirit. ای راست خان. Oh, you who are, who are reading correctly or reading in honesty, is referring to us. So, so if this spirit has this power to undergo this transformation, then imagine, what power the John has, right? The spirit of the spirits has to make these transformations. And it again here it's referring to Jabr, how the something which is the same word, right, shares the same letters, how that undergoes a transformation as it goes from the outside to the inside. جهد کن که ز جام حق یابی نوی. No, sorry. جهد کن که ز جام حق یابی نوا، بی خود و بی اختیار آنگه شوی. So he's saying struggle so that you seek from the chalice, right? From the cup of God. Navi means novelty or newness, right? New life, you could say. Bi khudo bi ikhtiyar angah shavi. And when you do that, right? When you drink from the cup of God, at that point you lose your consciousness, and you lose your ikhtiyar at that point as well.
Well, let's call it that way. You become out of your separate entity, and in other words, you yourself and all your abilities now have become someone else's. In other words, you lose your ordinary identity and become behud. You cannot control yourself anymore because now somebody else is controlling you. It's a very deep, profound kind of a word, behudi and be-ikhtiyari. It doesn't mean that you don't have those abilities, but now you have given them or joined them with somebody else's power and ikhtiyar, which is much higher power, and that's what you intended anyway. So it had a positive connotation of becoming unconscious. Yeah.
No, you're right. And in Farsi, we say as khud bi khud shudam. So it means I came out of myself.
Yes.
Right. So jazakallah, doctor. So then to conclude, he says, Anke an may ra bovad kul ikhtiyar, to shavi ma'zur mutlaq mastvar. So it says, the one whom his whole ikhtiyar becomes the may, or the wine, to shavi ma'zur mutlaq mastvar. Angah, not anke. Angah an meira bovad kul ikhtiyar. So it's saying, once that wine becomes the entirety of ikhtiyar, you become ma'zur. You become ma'zur mutlaq maswar. So you become excused. You become absolutely excused in a drunken manner. Right. And so Nicholson, he says your behavior will be absolutely excusable like that of a drunken man. So I'm not sure I agree with how.
Yes, you should agree with this, because he says when anga at that place, when the other and deity here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when he takes over the power, at that time you become, it's okay, whatever you do, you are forgiven, you are mazur, you have a reason to be the way you are, because you are totally intoxicated into that state.
I like the way you said it better.
You become so intoxicated because somebody intoxicated you, and that person is now totally responsible, and you cannot be blamed for it. This is the probably the climax of all the ashar that you have mentioned so far. See, I was reading Ankhe, and that was a problem because it's not Anga. I'm glad that you said that, because I don't see the Gaf here, but that makes perfect sense to me now, because at that stage,
yes,
Amira Bawad Kul Ikhtiyar, now he has the total power over you. Now you are not responsible for anything that you do there, because now you have become. You see here the difference also is you kept saying fana, you have become annihilated. Here he is going the opposite way. He's saying, Baqa billah. You are still around. You are still alive, have an identity, but now you are not responsible for it all. In other words, you are alive with God, but now you are one with him, and he has taken over all your powers, and he does work through you. This is where your Hadith Qudsi comes in.
هر چه گویی گفته می باشدان، هر چه رویی رفته می باشدان. So whatever you say will be the talk of the wine. Whatever you do will be the action
of him, not the wine.
Well, it says Raftei May. So we're drinking, you're drinking from Allah's wine. So this is,
yes.
Maybe I'll read the last one and then we can discuss.
No, but how do you translate Bashad? He becomes him.
Har Shiruyi
Raftei
May means you're, I think it's saying your Harche guyi gofte may bashadan. So by on, I think it's referring to your actions. Your actions become, right? Harche guyi gofte may bashadan. So whatever you say becomes the talk of the wine.
No. I don't see where you got the wine from. Harche, whatever, goi, you say, Guftai, that spoken word, mi bashada, becomes him.
I don't think it's mi bashad. I think it's may bashad.
How can you say Guftai may? May doesn't talk. Harche goi, whatever you say. Isn't it?
Yeah, harche gui, whatever you say, gofteye. So there's two ways you can read this. Gofteye, so it's saying gofteye mi bashad doesn't make sense. Gofteye may bashad. So it's saying the gofteye means the talk of.
All right, let me read it. Harche goi, whatever you say, guftai, that spoken word, mi bashad, becomes him. This is how I would say it, but let's continue on. I mean, I think here the wine is not what is talking. From what I'm saying is that whatever you say, utterance, it becomes his utterance. Whatever you go becomes as if he's going. I think that's the continuation of the previous line, that your actions become his actions, and he's just saying whatever you say becomes his saying, wherever you go becomes as if he's going. But we get the meaning.
Yeah, I think in terms of meaning, we're both saying the same thing. So then finally he ends with Ki konad an mas juz adl savab ke ze jam haq cheshide ast u sharab. I think so. This is the culmination of it. He said, when will that drunken person who has drank from the wine cup of God, who has drinking wine from the cup of God, when will he do anything except for adl and sawab, right? When will he do anything except for justice and right?
Let's say, how can he? How can you think that he can do any of this? How can you imagine that he could do anything except the justice and the good deeds?
Right.
How can he do that? He's basically saying, how can you even think that he will do anything wrong?
Yeah. No. So yeah, this was beautiful. So this, this in reality is that final stage that we're referring to.
Because he has drunken that liquid from Jame Haq, from the wine of the truth, from wine from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he has now imbibed that kind of a drink. So how can you even suspect that he could do anything other than justice and good deeds? He totally exonerates him. He totally puts him blameless. Beautiful.
Well, there's two ways to look at it, right? And I can see that Sheikh Mendez is here today with us as well, alhamdulillah. I think so the way that I'm looking at it, and Allah knows best, is when you drink from the chalice of Allah, you're only going to do what's right, right? When you get to that point, you're only going to do what's right. I think some interpret this to kind of say, okay, whatever you do is is considered right, and they some unfortunately I hear they kind of interpret this to deny the need for Sharia, and they say when you get to that point when you're in love with God, that whatever you do is okay. But I think the way I interpret this is when you get to that point, you're only going to do what's right, since you're controlled by God.
That's what it is. You got it.
Jazakallah. So it'd be great to open it up to discussion for all.
This is a topic that really we could have a conference, one-day conference on it, or 2 days. This is, if one can understand all of this, then you understand the Islamic philosophy of purpose of life, and how a ordinary human being can become so close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that he becomes his agent or vice agent on this earth.
That's right.
Assalamu alaikum. I think one of the comment you made earlier about Sheikh Kashifi is that I think it was very profound. He said, "What all I saw was one action, but with different veils."
Yes.
So it was, I think it's very profound. Maybe you can expand on this a little bit more.
Yes. وَكُلُّ الَّذِي شَاهَدْتُهُ فِعْلٌ وَاحِدٌ بِمُفْرَدِهِ لَكِنْ بِحُجْبٍ إِلَّا كِنَّ. And everything that I saw was but one action by itself, but covered with veils. And this kind of goes back to this journey from the domain of plurality to the domain of unity. Mawlana Rumi, he talks about this a lot. He refers to one term that he uses for the ordinary people is he also refers to the one who is kajbin or ahwal, the person who sees who has double vision, right? The person who sees two, sort of like who's kind of crooked-eyed or sees two things at once, as opposed to seeing unity. So what we see with our ordinary eyes, with our ordinary intellect, is just the plurality. We just see the parts, right? As opposed to the unity or the whole. And I think this is also part of that context over here. When you reach, and when you're in the middle of the journey and you reach the Jabr tayaqqum or the Jabr takhalluq, when you come to this true realization of how all actions are created by God, and in reality they're all but one action.
Inshallah. The other thing I was go ahead, please.
Sorry. Could that also mean that the veils basically are unveiled between the stages of the plurality of the Jabr to the oneness, or the all-encompassing Jabr? So that the veils between the Abd and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are lifted as the nearness between the Abd and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala,
Absolutely. That's part of it, right? In the end, it's these veils that exist that keep us from seeing the truth. And Mawlana Rumi, he likes to, when he talks a lot about, he's not a big fan of theological discussions. He said, they're okay to kind of to get you to a certain point, but it's, as I mentioned, he uses the analogy of a man walking on wooden legs. It'll only take you so far. You have to travel, you have to walk the walk, you have to travel the journey in order to be able to ultimately see these truths with your heart.
Rumi also says that I have taken the essence of Al-Quran, the message, and left the bones and the meat for others. In other words, this is why he's not worried about theologians discussing back and forth here and there. He
Right.
goes basically to the spirit. Yes, exactly what you just said, that he doesn't just make many mere philosophic discussions.
Right.
But he just goes to the spirituality of it and consider this as all coming from one source. Yeah.
Exactly. Sheikh Mendez, are you available to
MashaAllah.
hear us?
MashaAllah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, dear brothers and sisters.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Alhamdulillah.
Inshallah.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add. All I can say is beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Light upon light. Like Dr. Abdurrahman said, this is the goal. This is the purpose of life. This is the whole essence of the Islamic science, what I call Quranic and Sunnic science. This is it. And Mawlana, even though he was a theologian, even though he was a scholar of all the Islamic sciences, like Dr. Abdurrahman said, and he doesn't, and our dear brother Ustad Mahdi said, he didn't care much for these theological, polemical, gymnastics and arguments, debates. No. This is what we're supposed to be focused on. So I don't have anything to add. I thank you both, and I shared the hadith from the Prophet ﷺ in the chat. Yeah, that I think speaks to this reality of abiding in the presence of Allah with one's identity melted into divine consciousness, right? So I just shared the hadith from the Prophet.
That's a beautiful thing, divine consciousness. That really explains it. Beautiful. Yeah.
And it's so important. I don't know how many of you are familiar with. There's a book that came out, I think maybe 2 years ago, maybe 3. It's called Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind. It's very popular. It's by an Israeli Jewish historian. His name is Yuval Noah Harari. And people like Obama, praise this book. They read, policymakers are reading this book. World leaders,
wow,
are reading this book. And his premise is that we are in a post-religious society. That Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, and all these other religions around the world have failed. They have failed to answer and address the needs of modern and postmodern human beings. And when I listen to a class like I heard today, or when I listen to people like Imam Fode Drame, speak and teach, you realize that the reason why people like Yuval Harari say things like this and write books that become bestsellers, saying that Islam has failed modern human beings, that there are no answers in the Quran for the challenges of our time, is because the Muslims who are representing us are not connected with these teachings, have not internalized these teachings of people like Maulana Rumi.
Mm-hmm.
So, Jazakallah khair. Thank you both. And
Allah.
alhamdulillah, may Allah, accept this effort. May Allah spread this light.
Can you give the name of the book again, Sheikh?
Yes, sure. Yeah, sure. Dr. Abdurrahman, the name of the book is Sapiens, like Homo sapiens.
I got it. Sapiens. Okay.
Yeah, Sapiens: A Brief History of Humankind.
Ah, beautiful.
And what he's saying, if you can allow me, this is his main thesis. His main point is this. He asked the question at the beginning, and you can look on YouTube. He has lectures where he gives a summary of the whole book. If you don't have time to read the book, you can get a summary of it in about an hour or less from the author himself, right? But this is what he says. What is the difference between us and the apes and the chimpanzees that he and other evolutionary, I would say evolutionists believe are our closest ancestors? What's so different about human beings that cause us to become the dominant animal on the planet? All right. This is his question. And so he comes down to two things. He says, number one, human beings have the ability to believe in stories that are based on abstractions and that may not necessarily be true, but we believe in them anyway. And the second thing he says is human beings have the ability to cooperate on a mass scale that no other animal has. So he says these two things, stories, belief in stories, and cooperation on a mass scale are what have given us dominance over the planet. And in Rumi, he tells stories. The Quran is full of stories. And I think we need, as Muslims, we have a responsibility to give humanity new stories. I mean, they're not new stories, right? These are they're not new
narrations of the, yes.
Yes. Because he's coming up with his own story. Like Harari is coming up with his own story that we are nothing but atoms. We're nothing but matter. And because we're nothing but matter, the future is a world where all the needs that human beings have, religious and spiritual needs, now they must be met through science and technology. And that's really where he ends. That science and technology cannot just provide a better toaster or a better pencil anymore. That science and technology now must rise up and fulfill the spiritual needs and the religious needs that human beings are wired to have.
Interesting. Can't wait.
Yeah, please, read it. Let me know. I'd love to discuss it with all of you.
I like I suggested before, I think this is a topic for a major discussion. We can use interfaith resources for this. Because this is a real challenge. We cannot pick our parents, we cannot pick our siblings, but we can pick who we marry, and we can pick how we live our life. So there is Jabr, and yet there is ikhtiyar. And how does one go about in life in making certain decisions and then accepting certain things that come our way without having any confusion in our mind? It's a very interesting and very, very profound kind of process.
May I mention there's another book, I've read the Sapiens, and there's another book called Transcending the Levels of Consciousness by, I think the author is David or Hawkins. That also speaks of how a common man, the level of consciousness is basically somewhere between 25 to 75, whereas the spirituality level, as it increases, it can go beyond thousands, and I mean, he has scientifically kind of proven it. So that's another interesting book.
Well, thank
And
you.
Sapiens. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh Mohammed.
And sister, I don't know your name, but sister, what did you?
Shruti.
Oh, this is Shruti. Mashallah. How are you? How are you doing?
Alhamdulillah, I'm well. How are you?
Good, alhamdulillah. I'm so happy you're joining us. So what did you think of Sapiens? What was your take on
I always recommend it to everyone, that everybody should read. It's a 3-part series and everyone should read it. It's a very interesting book, and how, you know, we humans have, in many ways, we might have scientifically progressed, but we've created our own demise in so many different
Subhanallah.
ways.
Subhanallah.
It's a
Yeah,
great
that's what
read.
it says. Yeah, that's what it says.
Yeah,
Okay,
it is a
I'm
great
looking
read.
at this other book, Transcending the Levels of Consciousness, The Stairway to Enlightenment,
Yeah.
by David Hawkins. Okay. And what okay, thank you. Inshallah, I'll look into this book as well. Thank you.
Jazakallah for the book recommendations.
Fantastic. Had a great session, mashallah, Brother Mahdi.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. So shall we conclude with a dua?
Please.
Sheikh Mendez, could you do the honors?
MashaAllah, I'm driving, and just it'd be better if thank you for asking. Thank you so much.
Oh no,
but it'd be nice if someone else.
Sure.
And also, just please keep me in dua. Me and my family and I announced at the masjid on Friday that we'll be leaving the country, inshallah, in a couple weeks.
Oh.
So yeah, keep us in your prayers, inshallah.
Inshallah, inshallah, yes, it is, inshallah.
Have a safe
all the best
journey.
to you, mashallah.
Amen. There'll be a dinner, a farewell dinner at the masjid this Friday at 7 p.m.
Right. Correct, inshallah.
So you're all welcome. I'd love to see
join.
all of you. Yeah, all of you.
Is this temporary vacation or like a journey?
Allah knows best, but we hope to be there at least a few years, inshallah.
Oh, a few years.
Yes, mashallah.
Inshallah.
Relocating for a while. You all the best, Sheikh Mendez. We'll miss you here, but inshallah, you're going a special mission. We'll make dua for you to, make for khair barakah and make you successful in this, inshallah, initiative.
You know what the sheikhs say? The sheikhs say, goodbyes are only for those who love with their eyes.
Yes.
So, our hearts are connected always.
Yes, always. Yes, inshallah, mashallah. Alhamdulillah. Yeah, please, you're all welcome, to inshallah join us on Friday at 7 o'clock, inshallah. We at the MCGP.
MashaAllah.
With Brother Tahir or Dr. Abdul Rahman?
You have to get Dr. Abdul Rahman, inshallah. So that's up to
Bismillah ar-Rahman. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina wa Mawlana Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi. Sayyidina wa Mawlana Muhammadin wa barik wa sallam. Oh Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we strive in your path with whatever capabilities and the abilities we have. Oh Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, forgive our shortcomings. Look at our niyyah and give us the vision, courage, and the understanding so that we can spread your message beyond ourselves to our children and their children in future. Oh Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, give us the ability to create an easy message from you that can be easily understood by your creation. And your message comes across clearly to all those who listen to this. Oh Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are nothing. We are whatever we are. It's all because of your grace and mercy and whatever abilities you have given. But ma tawfiqi illa billah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, increase our tawfiq and give us the understanding so that we can pass this on to your creation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, again, give us the circumstances and the resources that are necessary so we can actually live by the agreement or live by the misak that we have made with you. that we will inshallah be true servants of you and your creation and serve them as much as we can with the full abilities. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, make your message clear to us, remove all confusions that might arise and keep us on the straight path. Sallallahu ta'ala ala khairi khalqi sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in bi rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin.
Ameen ya Rabb. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ameen ya Rabb. Ameen ya Rabb. Ameen.
Jazakallah.
A wonderful week, inshallah.
I mean, all of you too. All of you.
Until we meet again next week, inshallah.
I mean,
Inshallah.
have a good week. Have a good week.
Inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Salam.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.